everyone, I'm Emily Teacher, and today we're going to read A Long Winter Nap. Summer is a good time of year for most animals. It's easy for them to keep warm, and food is plentiful. Winter is harder for them. Lakes and ponds are frozen, and snow may cover the ground. All this makes food much harder to find. Many birds and some animals escape northern winters completely. They migrate south in the fall and return in the spring. So, winter time is very hard for animals, right? In the summer, it's nice and warm. There's plenty of food. They can eat as much as they want. But in the winter, it's really cold. Sometimes there's a lot of snow, and it's hard to find food. So some animals leave in the winter and come back in the spring, but some animals are different. Let's learn about the groundhog. The groundhog or woodchuck deals with winter differently. It hibernates. As soon as it feels the weather turning cold, it starts to dig. It digs a burrow at least 5 feet underground. There it makes a comfortable nest with leaves and grass. The groundhog spends the cold winter months nestled in the underground bed. It does not usually wake up until spring. It is far enough below ground that there is no danger of its freezing to death. It even stays safe during the most severe winters. So a groundhog is the same as a woodchuck. The groundhog, when it starts to get cold, it digs a really deep hole and it makes a nice nest down there. So it has somewhere warm to stay during the winter time and it won't freeze. The groundhog does not eat at all during the winter. Instead, it eats as much and as often as it can during the summer. People with gardens know how destructive a groundhog can be to their plants. As winter approaches, the groundhog becomes so fat it can hardly move. It prepares its nest and closes off the openings of the tunnels that lead down to it. When it starts to feel drowsy, it makes itself comfortable and falls into a long, deep sleep. This sleep can last up to 8 months. So the groundhog cannot eat in the wintertime. It eats in the summer, and it eats a lot. So it gets really, really fat. And then when it's ready, it goes down in its tunnel and it closes all the holes so the winter and the cold air can't get in. Then it starts to feel sleepy and it falls into a deep sleep. So the groundhog will sleep sometimes up to 8 months without waking up. If you observe the groundhog in this state, you might think it had died. Its breathing almost ceases. Its heart slows to about 4 beats a minute. A thermometer would show that its body temperature has fallen to just above freezing. When the groundhog wakes up in the spring, it has been without food for many months. Its weight has been reduced to only half of what it was in the fall. Almost all its body fat has been used up to keep it alive during its long sleep. By February or March, the famished animal is ready to leave its hole and go looking for its first meal. So, because the groundhog is sleeping the whole time, its body slows down. It's a little bit colder, but the way it stays alive, right? It was really, really fat when it went to sleep. Its body uses all the fat to keep it alive. So when it wakes up many months later, it's really, really hungry and ready to go get food. Years ago, people who lived in the country eagerly awaited the sight of the first groundhog putting its head above the ground. It was a sign that winter was over. So these people would look, and when they saw the groundhog come up, all right, winter is over. It's the end of winter. This gave rise to a number of stories. One of them was told by German farmers who had settled in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. The story was about a groundhog they called Punxsutawney Phil. This remarkable animal could forecast the weather. According to the story, Phil ventured from his nest every February 2nd. He poked his head above ground and looked around. If he saw his shadow, it meant that there would be another month and a half of winter. In that case, he went back to sleep for another 6 weeks. If the weather was cloudy and he didn't see his shadow, it meant spring would be early. This story spread around the country. Eventually, February 2nd became known as Groundhog Day. So Groundhog Day is still celebrated in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, in the United States. So every year on Groundhog Day, there's Punxsutawney Phil, the groundhog, comes out on February 2nd, and if he sees his shadow, then it means there is going to be another month and a half of winter. But if it's cloudy and he cannot see his shadow, then it means spring would come soon. So that's all about our groundhogs and Groundhog's Day. Thank you for listening to this story. We have links related to each video, and if you want the link related to this video, you can find it down in the description below.